So, good evening, everyone, once again. And we are here with our Saturday webinar. And thank you so much for the love that you have shown for the previous ones. And we had to keep up and live up to that expectation. So, to match that, today we have with us Professor Manika Walia, who is a dear friend and an exceptional person in her own field. She talks about creativity and innovation as it's just there, and she works with children so comfortably and gets them to think out of the box. So we are so happy and so glad to have you here, Manika, and it's certainly a big thing for us that you are coming here and you are talking to our community. So I will hand it over to you. The format of this webinar will be that Professor Manika Walia would be speaking for about 30 minutes. And then you can put in your questions in the chat box, and Puchika will take up those questions with Manika. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Deepthi, for giving me this opportunity and such a heartwarming welcome. Thank you so much. I am really honored to be a part of the Mahatattva community, and it's nice, I mean, what better way to start a Saturday evening with interactive session with the audience. So today, as you all know, it's all about technology and how technology is taking a pivotal role in all our lives. So how can we make technology more human-centric? So it's all of humanizing technology. So to begin with, 5 or 10 or maybe 20 years ago, I never could have thought of or never could have imagined about social media, virtual reality, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, technology and humans are becoming ever enmeshed. Who had thought of that there would be something called social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, we have various platforms, but now it's all a part of our life. And we rely on technology like never before. We use it to stay in touch. We use it to complete our work. We use it to get the news, to shop for groceries, to do our purchases, to manage our finances. Educating community, educators also are now teaching online. Students are learning that new knowledge. And the list goes on and on. We are so much involved with technology that we don't even realize how much it affects our daily lives, and that it is actually changing our brain. Yes, it is having a huge impact on our brain. So in this digital age, you won't imagine people actually consume news. There was an era, I would say it an era, where there was a tangible product like a newspaper, and people used to go through and turn the pages, go through a column by column. But now what people are doing, people are consuming news in 140 characters or even less. We used to express ourselves, our emotions, used to write stories, and now the transit is that we just use one single emoji to share full story, full, to express what we are going through by just one emoji. Those smiley characters we have on our smartphones. And the story doesn't stop here. The attention is largely stimulus driven. People's brain are adapting and changing in the presence of technology, which is a big concern. There was a very interesting research which was conducted by London Business School by Professor Costas, and he's a professor of strategy and entrepreneurship. And he said that all our brains in today's time, because of the technological advancement, are physically changing. That's something, which is alarming. And the research shows that our attention span is becoming very small. We pay attention only for 30 seconds, and then our brain moves to do or do something else. We need a switchover. Our attention, that focused attention, is just for 30 seconds. So this availability of technology is actually making us more impatient. Certainly, we all are becoming impatient, and understand from the students' perspective, they are still young. So we are becoming impatient, number one, and we are also craving for convenience. So these are the two words, impatient and craving for convenience. Let me simplify this. We all have experienced that when we are interacting on digital channels, right? We are consuming some information online, or we are browsing some websites to look for products, to make purchases, or even try new technology. If that technology or if that complete experience is easy, we stick on to that. But if it is difficult, we just switch off and we move on, don't we? We all do that. So, what is the crux of it? The crux is that as a response, there is a clear trend towards making technology and your digital interactions, interfaces, which should be more human friendly to help us to do things faster, smarter, and of course, in a better manner. So, to cut it short, it's in one line. My line is that technology shapes brain. I repeat, technology shapes brain and brain shapes technology. Just understand, it's technology which is shaping brain. At the same time, is also shaping technology. Now, how do I do it? Let me help you in understanding and simplify this further. We are seeing this action every day in all our lives, every day, in even at our homes, right? Take something as simple as a voice command. Have you ever noticed that in how in these last few years, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line, how these voice commands have changed themselves from sounding like robots to having a human tone? Now, we all have our smartphones, right? And all these Apple smartphones have Siri. We have Alexa. Few of us have Alexa. So, if you have an issue and that issue is not understood by Siri or Alexa, you won't hear from them that, sorry, this is a wrong input or it's an error and I can't compute, right? But what do they say? They say, instead of all this, they say, the standard response, which is, sorry, but I can't understand. Could you repeat your issue, please? So technology is taking that turn, if I may say, and just to make the thing little lighter, technology is actually learning manners and society niceties. So Siri usually responds like that, and so does Alexa. That, sorry, but I can't understand. Could you please repeat your issue, please? So this is how we see that technology needs a little more humanized approach. The tech is becoming sleeker and more intelligent, but there is also a need, or there is also a requirement for more human or human brain friendly technology. So, why do we require technology, and why technology has to become more human? Because the ultimate factor, please understand this, the ultimate factor that decides whether a technology will be adopted is not technical. It's not technical at all whether we have to take a decision whether the technology will be adopted or it will not be adopted. It has nothing to do with the technical side of it. The most essential aspect is how well a technology understands and can support our human cognitive abilities, capabilities, and enhance how do we do things naturally. This will decide whether the technology has to be adopted or it is not to be adopted. Isn't it funny? So, what a technology should do if it has to be more humanized, it needs to be number one, it should be easy to understand, more convenient, well engineered, and above all, optimized around people and their habits. Much, much important. Now, to further simplify, let me give you a small situation. Maybe you have two chairs in your room, right? One chair is a ladder back chair, which is of hard solid wood, and the second chair is a winged chair with armrest. It has a nice upholstery, nice cushioning. So, what do these chairs do? The function of these both chairs is to make a seating, right? There has to be a solid sitting surface. But what will be your preference? If from between the two, which chair would you prefer? Whether it would be that hard, solid ladder back chair, or whether it would be a chair which is a winged chair. It has an armrest, it has a nice upholstery to itself, and there is a certain level of cushioning. I'm sure everybody will go in for cushioning. So that's exactly through this example, what I'm trying to say is that even the technology is like that. It has to make our life more comfortable, and it also has to make it more human centric. So, humanizing technology is definitely the need of the hour, and that is the way. If we have to adopt technology, it has to be with the human brain kind of a functioning attached. Now, here with Mahatattva, we all are educationists. We are coming from an academic background. So, the community here is of the academicians. So, I thought, it will be better to talk rather than talking about tech and ed tech, rather than let me take a route where we all have gone through this challenge of 1.5 years in the COVID situation. That how can we make how can we humanize technology for the education sector? The COVID situation has actually created a lot of uncertainties for us. We don't know. At times, the government policy says now the online has started. Again, there's a switch over to offline. So we don't know for how long this shuffle will keep going. Or rather, we move on to a new hybrid kind of a mode for teaching. But then the wise decision is that this new mode of teaching learning is going to be a new normal, and we should better adapt to it. But there are certain disadvantages to the whole scenario. What are these disadvantages? The basic and the most important disadvantage is that the online students often feel isolated. They do, which may decrease their motivation and increase attrition. When learning occurs entirely through computer mediated instructions, an important part of the teacher's role which is to ensure the learning environment is people focused, is reduced, or the environment which is more humanized is reduced. There is a study of literature which shows that when students relate to an online teacher as something more than a subject matter expert and begin to conceive of themselves as a part of larger community, they are more likely to be motivated, be satisfied with their learning, and succeed in achieving the course objectives. So there we go. This study is a complete transparent reflection of what we are talking. And henceforth, the end goals of humanizing technology in education can be and should be fostered through first, integrating learners' voices. How do we make it more effective, more efficient? First could be integrating learners' voices. Listen to our students, listen to the other side of the story. Engaging students in the active construction of knowledge. How do we engage students? How do we deliver so that the students are on our side and we go on the receiving side? Third would be fostering emotional connections which are gradually getting lost because that human touch or that physical connection is missing. And fourth is providing students with choices rather than limiting them, just give them a plethora of choices. Henceforth, humanized learning will definitely increase the relevance of content of learners and improve their motivation to be active and to be, regular with their online sessions. So, with this talk, there are basically, certain points which I would like you all to consider, and they can be like a few takeaways. Where first would be certainly convenience. Convenience. Are we thinking of the convenience of our students and of ourselves as teachers, as educators? Students are certainly are affected by information which is overload. It is information is overloaded. They want personalized. So, what do they want? They do want a personalized, quick, and easy access to the information or results that are relevant to their specific situation. So, we have to make it a little more convenient pedagogy. Second is simplification. Technology is supposed to reduce the complexity of our daily lives, which which the irony is that which is partially caused by technology itself. The Rather than reducing, it is making the life and the whole system little more complex. Third becomes the greater inclusion. Now, greater inclusion, the speed at which the technology is advancing or is changing, also comes with the risk of excluding the teachers, the students who are less tech savvy or who don't have that kind of an infrastructure to benefit from. Say, for example, educator community who are not very tech savvy will have difficulties to access information, will have difficulties to access on either Microsoft Team or Zoom or whichever platform that may be relevant for them. So what should we do? So what can we do in this kind of a scenario? We don't have much choices, but then we are educators. We have to create something in the benefit of the students' community. So there are certain basic overarching principles as how you can make technology more human friendly in your classroom. First, don't forget to add your human touch. That is what is missing. And this is the most crucial thing. Don't forget to add that human touch. How do you add that? Listen to students' need, adapt, and make it easy to do engagement with you. Don't be firm enough. Second, which is the most important point, is that design matters. Let us create, let us find some new solutions. Humans are visual creatures. They respond to visuals more than just to writing and listening. So how do we do that? And this is what I've been doing with my students at School of Creativity, Rishihood University. We do work onto simulators. Now, what are simulators? Simulators are basically the platforms in which student is in the mix of realistic scenarios on a virtually, where they apply the concepts and their frameworks. So, what do the simulators do? Simulators provide a playground to the students to make mistakes and learn to pivot. They also give the student an opportunity to experiment with various strategies, take tough decisions according to whatever the courses or the subjects you are assigning, and face consequences in real time. And that is the perfect way in this kind of a scenario to tee up a rich classroom discussion. Just keep trying. Simulate the real world and encourage a new skill development. And once you get a hang of it, trust me, it's not easy. Encourage students to develop new skills. Now, what can be those skills through these simulations? These skills could be the skills of resilience, teamwork, leadership. These can easily be incorporated and can be as a part of a learning outcome from your sessions. And manage them by giving them priorities and just influx them with information which is necessary for them. So basically, a simulation, I think, is the way forward when we are talking about humanizing technology, especially in the classroom, because a simulation will not only stimulate active engagement of students, where students are playing a role, not just by reading and analyzing, they are also making decisions and they are also seeing the results of their decisions in the response of their other fellow mates. So it's right there. It's actually creating a real life experience for them. Now, simulations also generate much more energy among students than traditional lectures or even the case study discussions. So, I think this has actually worked very effectively for me. The students have responded very well to this, where we create a virtual scenario which is based on a real life experience. Students are completely absorbed and immersed into it, and they come out with the most creative solution I can even think of. The third thing could be that let your students take shortcuts. Till date, we always like go in depth, understand, don't take shortcuts. But now, because the time is so challenging and time is also precious, most people don't want to waste their time needlessly searching for the right information. Instead of, putting the students going through one article, finding the information, doing the hell lot of reading these research articles or doing their research, maybe as teachers, if we can put up the right content right under their nose and then tell them now start working on to what is required, So let us think of making their life easy, and I'm sure they will certainly come out with some flying colors. Now, the fourth important thing, as per my experience, which I have experienced, is that what do we do is that we create and deliver solutions that work in the way real people think and do things, such as making decisions. Now, gently and effectively guide them towards the right solution. And this can be achieved by asking the right questions. Give them this comfort level where they can ask the right questions and the most difficult questions, and thereby our role comes in of educating and advising. uh, Another thing is that while it's challenging, certainly it is challenging to deliver every student to have that kind of a physical connection, to build up that rapport on a on this technological platform. But then when we are talking of humanizing technology, then the student interaction in person has to be imbued, has to be inspired, maybe by leveraging onto other platforms such as messaging services, which can help us to communicate with students directly. We can inspire them through them, and we can also ask them about their needs, or maybe if they are going through some problem, or maybe there is some calamity in the family. So through the messaging services, this human personal touch can be generated. So 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 basically, this whole idea of choosing this topic of humanizing technology, and that too, for the educators and the education community, was basically to just open up a platform where we understand that we all, as humans, as educators, we are completely and very heavily we are relying on technology these days, because we have to manage our lives, we have to manage our classrooms. And the fact is that the technology and this way of teaching is going to stay, right? This is going, I don't know for how long this is going to stay, or this will be the way forward for everybody across the world. Yet, as our lives become increasingly entwined and twisted with this technology, we will certainly notice a shift by doing such kind of humanizing touch when we start incorporating into our classroom. This technology will continue to evolve. It will continue to meet our human needs. But more importantly is that how seamlessly we integrate, and then with this integration, we will soon understand that the future of technology is going to be, or maybe is going to be strangely human. There will definitely be a human touch. So these were my views, and now I open the platform because I really want that it should be like a more of an interactive talk rather than we talking. And thereby, you must have realized I have not even come out with the presentation, because it's better that we talk on the real experiences rather than talking as what we should do and how technology can be changed or how it should be relooked into. So now I open the platform for other participants to, maybe if you have questions or if you want to share your experience. I would love to hear what your experiences were in these 1.5 years of the pandemic situation.
So, Manika, that was like super amazing. Um, Listening to that perspective from you, and reflecting on what my practice has been for technology integration, I can so totally relate to it. I love the way it was, like listening to a narration of a story. So the why of it, what of it, and the how of it. So that was like,
Absolutely, Deepti, because the situation was such that overnight we were all asked to transit, of the traditional
yes.
practice, what we were doing, into a classroom, our PPTs, our session plans, our learning objectives, how we were matching with the learning outcomes. And then overall, there's a transit overnight where we are on a platform. And to be honest, there were some students who had never even have heard of you know. The other side of it was that till date, these online platforms were basically used for entertainment or social media from the student community. Now we are asking them to come and gain new knowledge and have the learning experience. So, this mind shift was definitely one of the big challenges. And how we overcome, I thought it would be better to share that how we overcome and how we did, how we found these creative solutions. So that was my story, actually.
It was beautifully narrated. So full points on creativity to you, Manika. So
Thank
we
you so
finally
much.
we finally do have a question from
Yes,
one of my friends who lives in the US. She's a superb science teacher, and she
lovely,
also had a webinar for us recently. So
lovely.
she's talking about what suggestions would you have on how teachers can build each other and
Uh-huh.
support each other as we go forward. So, what is this community building between the educators? So, how do you envisage that?
See, basically, Deepti, this is again going back to these 3 to 4 C's, which we talk about. First is certainly the creativity, then comes the communication, and third is definitely collaboration. Let us collaborate, let us collaborate, whether we are at a national level or we are at an international level, we are into different sectors. Let us collaborate. Let us have our own a platform where we can exchange our experiences. Once we know, what one community goes through, what was their pros and cons, what was the pros and cons, something must have worked better for me, something would have worked better for some other teacher, so let us have that transparent exchange, and I'm sure we can come out with a proper document to which could be like, a written document to come out, where we can say that how technology in this pandemic and, the way forward could be seeing the situation. So definitely the how we can envisage is through collaboration. That would be my key word.
Absolutely. And I think in these 1.5, 2 years, the teachers, learning curve has been like
Yes,
perpendicular, where they all
yes,
have learned so much. And
yes,
they are actually now, when I used to do these integrated technology trainings, I used to tell people, and people used to tell me, for last 20 years we've been teaching like that, you just please stay away. All my
yeah,
friends used to push me out of the door of the classroom. But now I'm getting calls from people living in South India and saying, ma'am, we've heard about your trainings, can you do the trainings for us?
yes,
They
yes,
are coming for it. I think that's the need of
yes,
the hour.
yes,
One of the things there are, yes, and Ritu is talking about transparent collaboration, and
yes.
that is the
That is
phrase that she
certainly,
put on
yes.
there. Yeah. So I
It's
would like to ask.
important.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely. So there are no more questions coming up, so we are waiting for them as they
Okay,
come up. And
right.
you used a phrase called visual creators. We are all visual creators, and I do know, in the pedagogy, when you talk about pedagogy, 87% of the people in any audience are VAC learners. They are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners. So
Absolutely.
absolutely bang on there. And I totally believe in visible thinking strategies where children, whatever is in their mind, they just put it down on paper
They
and
put it down and it's like captured for a longer period of time.
longer
It
period
just
of
goes
time.
back to their long-term memory rather than just a short-term memory. Rather than
Yes,
putting them onto this thing where you are just, you are going through your notes and you are cramming. There's no point. And then we talk about the applied learning, we talk about the experiential learning. So why not the visual learning, right? Whatever you
absolutely.
have, just do a brainstorming, put a brain map, your visual map is there, and then the whole process becomes very, very transparent.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that these things have to be incorporated, and when the technology is taking the front seat, this becomes very, very important that we do change our pedagogical ways of delivery, because then finally the outcome and the objective is the same, that the students should have a long term learning. They should perform
absolutely.
well into their spheres. So how do they perform? Just by sitting in front of a laptop is not easy. It's just not easy, sitting for hours in 9 in the morning till 2 in the evening. That's very challenging. So who has measured, I ask the people, who has measured whether the students are actually absorbing what you are talking to them?
Mm-hmm.
So that's I think there has to be a shift on the way we start delivering now.
Absolutely. So I'm keeping an eye on the questions. There's another one from Pooja Nangya, and
Please.
she asks that if you could suggest some simulation platforms, or what kind of simulations are you talking about when you said that we need to give the children the platform? So
Okay, so
any
there are a lot
suggestions
of
on that?
free platforms, but since we are into the school of creativity, that's a different ball game. So there are a lot of free simulations where, say, supposingly you're talking about history class, say for example, right? And you are talking about the ancient period. Why not create a virtual experience where the student actually gets into the caves, gets into that, and they are easily available online and they are completely free of cost. It's just
Mhm.
that we need to be little creative in putting our session plans into that kind of a thing. So create an experience for the student. It's basically about creating an experience and immersing the student into that experience. Give them a problem, and the student goes into it, so the student actually feels that they are into this ancient era, and then in that ancient era, the prehistoric times, they're living like a caveman, so the projects are also very interesting. This is just a very basic example which I am doing, but then it's applicable to all these subjects. uh, with that thing, what was their experience, what were the challenges, so they also start thinking, because they are the children of today's age,
Mm.
what the caveman must have gone through, right? If the caveman had gone through the understand from this point, Deepti, because design thinking again comes into picture. The caveman must have gone through this, but then these children are far exposed, right? And they are becoming the caveman, they are going into that kind of a situation in the virtual world. So they themselves find a real solution, that if this would not have happened, maybe this was the right solution.
Yeah.
So these kids, they surprise you, they just surprise you on these simulators. And not only for history, that's the easiest example, but whether it is talking about any language, whether it is talking about math, whether it is also about geography, people just love it. You put them onto maybe exploration of an ocean, into a sea, onto a continent, a climate. They just understand. This was the thing where we were doing so for my creative student, I'll just say what we were doing is, was she was doing a wall art mural, and she was doing a mural with terracotta. So she went on to the terracotta from Odisha and Haryana, because Rishihood is in Sonipat. So how she developed it, how she took the inspiration from the clay, the composition of clay which was in Sonipat is different from so, this was actually giving her a real life experience. Though traveling was banned, she couldn't have traveled. But then giving her this kind of a virtual experience actually helped her to see and how a mural will react, how the clay will behave in a climatic condition, which is of a city like Sonipat, and which is in Orissa. So, the research component is like taken as a first hand information.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. The experiential learning from any context can
yes,
be so fulfilling for a child. And I
yes,
know these simulations you can, the Google Earth,
yeah,
Google Expedition, which is now part of
yes,
Google Earth, then Google Maps, where you can
yes.
do virtual
Oh,
tours,
yes,
and then
yes,
Thinkling.
yeah.
Thinkling gives you an
Tinkling
amazing
is again something. Oh, yes.
yes,
And these are some,
virtual
it's just
experience.
basically, we as teachers, we have to just sit down, we have to get into that browsing kind of a mode. There are immense free platforms, it's just that we have to choose and we have to pick what is best suitable for our courses, what will be best suitable for our students, because then there has to be some kind of a configuration. So it's not very difficult, not difficult at all. Let your
So,
creativity just flow.
so then no more questions coming in, Manika. So the last question, or maybe a point of discussion with you from me, would
Sure.
be, of course, on design thinking. Um, 8 years of design thinking is what I have done with the K-12 children in that space, and
Oh,
they have
you've done
come
a
up with.
fabulous
They've
job,
done a
Deepthi. All
fabulous job.
thanks to you
Yes.
that you have actually uplifted the K-12 community and how important design thinking is. You've actually opened up their horizon and they've started thinking differently. I
So,
remember the kind of projects you've done for them,
yes, yes. So,
beautiful
so
projects.
taking that K-12, Manika, what we did
Yeah.
a few years back was, with support from you and Mike Knowles, we actually got this entire thing together where the school children interacted with the higher ed children, and that was the most amazing edtech summit
Yes.
that we have
Yes.
ever had.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, so doing a backward design, you are now
Yeah.
working with higher ed children, and you are leading, you are the dean of creativity at Rishihood. What kind of
I
backward
on
design?
this open platform, Deepthi, I would like to give all the credit to Professor Mike Knowles.
Yes,
He has been my guru, and I am trying to work just on his footsteps. I mean,
yes.
yeah. So certainly,
Absolutely, he's on our board as well,
yes,
and
yes,
I think that's the person who connected us as well.
yes.
So, Monica, my question is that if you're looking at the higher ed children now and you're working with them on design thinking, so looking at design thinking for social change, because that's something, the empathy is something that should come from our K-12 children as well. So when you do a backward design, what would you see design thinking in schools to be at? Now, NEP says you have to include design thinking in the curriculum integrated. So, what are your
Uh,
views?
So basically, if we go backward, and we are basically talking about the K-12 community, Deepthi, and that too in the design thinking. And you also mentioned about, one of the clause which is mentioned in NEP. One thing which just immediately struck me was that, about the indigenous wisdom.
Hmm.
you know with the design thinking, with NEP, India has lots to offer, whether it is about creativity, whether it's about architecture, whether it is about these grassroots innovations, whether it is also about the science, the health. India has lots to offer. So why not, with the design thinking, of course, because it is a non-linear process. Design thinking is basically a back and forth, and it's not a linear, it's a non-linear process.
Yeah.
When the students are getting exposed to identify a problem and then to also see whether it is the right problem, along with NEP, which says that we also have to talk about our root, we have to talk about the Indian culture. Why not then just route everything into a concept which is highly indigenous? Maybe let them explore certain indigenous innovations, right? Now, say for example, just to give you a thing, a terracotta, again, a cooler, right? That cooler
Hmm.
where we, on the
Yes.
railway stations and all, we used to get those tea. It's a sustainable model, right? But then somebody picked up that cooler, and that cooler was actually made microwave friendly,
Hmm.
right? Or pick up a craft, or maybe something as an art, or maybe a cave art. India has lots to offer. And then through design thinking approach, maybe can we, with the use of technology, try to restore it? Can we do that? Maybe pick up a craft which is an extinct craft with design intervention and design thinking process. Can we uplift that craft again? So I think the school students will be supercharged. They have that kind of resources, they have that kind of support from their teachers. The school themselves at the K-12 level, they want to come out with such kind of projects. I think that should be the way forward, rather than just putting them into identify a social problem or the environmental problem, or maybe something as a human thing. Let us put them into a broader term, which is of indigenous innovations or indigenous wisdom. Come out with it and try actually to help a community. That would be my thought. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you
Yeah.
will be very happy to know that last year we Mahatatva launched the Create curriculum. The acronym is
Lovely.
Create, and
Wow.
we start design thinking for 2.5-year-olds,
Uh-huh.
wherein in summer, they empathize with what the birds feel when it is hot and in summer. So how
That's
do they
interesting.
yeah, so how do they design a bird bath? And
Yeah.
the iteration is, where do they keep it so that the maximum number of birds come? So where do the
Come.
maximum
Yeah.
number of birds? So
Yeah.
evidence is dropping, citing the birds. So two and
Yeah.
a half year olds do design thinking in
That's
our
very
curriculum.
interesting, actually.
And
I mean,
yes, yes,
um,
absolutely. So Ritu has loved your example, and she's given a comment
okay.
on that.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Yes. So, Manika, this was absolutely an amazing, amazing session, and it's always such a pleasure to listen to you. Your thoughts are so coherent, and they just flow. And I'm sure my community is also enjoying this session with you. And of course, the session is recorded, and people can come onto our wall and watch it. But thank you
Right.
so much, Manika, for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much, Deepthi. Thank you so much. It was indeed a pleasure. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to express my experiences. And I'm sure the educators will definitely benefit from it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye
Thanks.
bye.
Thank you. Bye
Bye bye.
bye. Take care. Bye bye.